genre.
In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. Thank you for listening to Ideal Remake. We take movies that either have been, will be, or should be remade and talk about what the ideal version of that remake would be. Every day is the opportunity for a better tomorrow, and hopefully, a better Tomorrowland. And dreaming of that with me is Sam Block. So, Sam, is Tomorrowland a movie that has been, will be, or should be remade?
It should be. It should be remade.
Great. Cool. Sam, welcome to Ideal Remake.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Clearly.
Was my face not giving
it was just, you like went to radio mode and you're like, yes, I am also happy to be here.
My bad.
Yeah, no worries. So cool. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself so the audience knows who we're listening to.
I'm Sam. I'm a writer. I'm from New Jersey. I love to bake things.
What kind of writing stuff do you do?
I have written for the show NCS Los Angeles. That's my only professional credit so far, but I've also got a whole lot of stuff that I love to write. Fantasy, sports. I was a college athlete, so I write a lot of stuff in those kinds of genres.
And time of recording, you're doing a bunch of backflips on Instagram.
Specifically on Instagram.
I mean, I don't know if they're happening anywhere else, but all I know is Instagram.
I am doing a lot of backflips. I have decided that by my 30th birthday next month, I will land a standing backflip on the floor. So far, I'm getting pretty close. I've been going a lot to practice since January. I'm getting very close, so hopefully that will happen. Stay tuned.
Well, based on when this episode might come out, it might come out around your birthday.
Well,
so,
then,
happy birthday.
If so, we'll have to attach clip of me landing flip.
Oh, 100%. For sure. But yeah, cool. Thank you for joining and talking about Tomorrowland with me. Do you remember the first time you saw this movie?
I don't remember the specifics, but I definitely saw it in theaters. I definitely did, because I am a huge Disney fan, and I remember seeing the trailer and being like, this is going to be the coolest thing I've ever seen. Do I still think that? Maybe not, but I was really excited to see it in theaters. I remember liking it in the theater. Yeah, I definitely cried, I think. I definitely cried again watching it at the end.
I mean, it is I do really like the way the movie ends, and there are a lot of aspects of this movie that I think are good. I unfortunately don't particularly care for the movie as it exists, but there's so much there, and I also saw it in theaters and was like so excited. I'm like, yeah. Part of me, there had been a little twinge in the back of my head of like, we're doing another movie based on a ride, but like, you go in and you're like, you want this movie to be so good. And watching it again this time, because I have a couple of friends who adore this movie. So I went in knowing that, and I went in like, okay, I didn't like it the first time I saw it, but I'm so excited to watch it again because hopefully I get to see it knowing that people love it, so hopefully I get to no, unfortunately that didn't happen. Which is too bad, because like I fundamentally think the idea of the movie is good, and despite the fact that it's Brad Bird, I unfortunately think the execution just isn't there.
I had the exact same experience rewatching it. I think I love the ending. I love the message. I love what they're going for. I love what they're going for. I don't know what happened, because I was looking at the IMDb while watching it, and I was like, Brad Bird, David Lindelof, like, this is got to be amazing. Restarted it, and I was like, it's not. I don't know if it suffered from studio notes or something, because there's quite a lot that happens in the first, 15 minutes that later on in the movie, I'm like, that was not necessary. So I am interested to hear your thoughts on it and get into the more specifics, because I definitely think around the beginning of Act 3, I suddenly started being like, oh, I see what they're going for here.
Yeah.
And I see why I wanted to like it and the things that I do like about it. But something in the beginning and the middle kind of muddies that to the point where it just becomes a stretch.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the movie as it exists. The movie starts with George Clooney talking with someone off camera and them being snarky and snippy with each other and talking about the way things happened. Whatever.
Little cheeseball.
Yeah, that feels like a studio note.
Totally.
But, because then at the end it cuts to, the people that they're addressing are, all of the new recruiter robot kids.
Yeah, the robot kids. It does pay off, but it's just, right off the bat, it's a little,
Yeah, I think it's a mistake. But, fundamentally, we start with this little kid going to the World's Fair.
Yeah. The 1964 World's Fair.
To show off his jetpack to Hugh Laurie.
Which was very fun.
Yeah, I mean, like, no notes on Hugh Laurie. Hugh Laurie did great.
Yeah.
And he's really housing it up.
Very, very much, except with the British accent.
With the British accent.
Which I did not, side note, know that he was British for a very long time because my only experience of him was on House.
Great.
Which I'm sure will insult anyone British listening, but he crushes his American accent.
It's true. He does. And, like, unless you're familiar with Laurie and Fry...
Which, I mean, should have been, but I wasn't.
It wasn't on Netflix at the time. And I don't know if it's on Netflix now.
Like, it's got to be on, like, BritBox.
Something like that. Like, I remember there was a British sketch show called That Mitchell and Webb Look with the same guys who did Peep Show and everything. And the whole thing had been available on Netflix. And I watched all of it. And it's so good. And now it's not. And I'm just like, how else are people going to discover and find all this amazing British comedy?
That's so crazy.
Only my parents pay for BritBox, and that's so they can watch whatever the latest season of Vera is.
I got very close to paying for it after I watched half of an Agatha Christie adaptation on a plane. But I'll just read the book. It's fine.
Fair. But yeah, so like, this kid's showing up with a jetpack, and he's like, you said you need people who can invent things. And Hugh Laurie's like, yeah. And Hugh Laurie's like, a jetpack? Does it work? And he's like, it mostly works. And Hugh Laurie's like, not good enough, get out of here. And it's like, what?
I think, and especially later on when you, spoiler alert, find out what his, like, ultimate plan is and stuff, I wish we had seen him being more encouraging and nice up top.
Yeah.
I would have loved to be like, dude, you made a jetpack and you're 11? That's pretty crazy in 1964.
I think so.
Yeah.
And, like, it's also very much the aspect of, like, you're just establishing right up at the top, oh, this is the bad guy.
Yeah, he's a jerk.
So, like, okay, great. Where are we gonna go? What's the twist? What's the reveal?
Yeah, they're not using, like, I think it would even be fine if he was slightly jerky but had, like, a heart of gold type of thing at the beginning. Like, maybe changes his mind by the end of their conversation.
Right.
Something that
Instead
gets
of
you on his
the
side.
little girl showing up and being like, I like this one. Him being like, I don't know. And then she has to, like, trick the kid into following them and, like, getting in the tube that takes them back to Tomorrowland.
Which, also crazy that she just, like, puts him on It's a Small World and he's in Tomorrowland, and then later they have to, like, essentially destroy Paris to get there.
Crazy. But that's kind of the problem, is that, like, we get through the first 10 to 15 minutes of this movie and nothing's really explained. Mm-hmm. One of my big issues with this movie is my issue with a lot of modern blockbusters is that it was all kind of all show, no tell. Yeah. And you do need a little tell. I understand that, like, it's mystery, there's cool, like, you're examining and you're not supposed to know all these different things yet, but, like, if we're going in and we have no connection to the kid, have no connection to the girl, have no connection to anybody, and we're putting the kid in peril, we're seeing all these big, grand, beautiful sights or whatever, but they don't mean anything to us.
Yeah, and the peril that he's in it's like, I don't want to say it's like a shark jump immediately, because you can't really jump a shark when you have not seen most of the material, but he immediately can use the jetpack and fix it and flies around this place that he didn't know existed. Well, it's pretty crazy.
No, a random robot shows up and fixes it for him. Right. And then he can fly around and use it automatically and doesn't accidentally kill himself.
As if it's not, like, very difficult for human beings to learn how to manipulate their bodies while flying through the air.
Right, but even, like, forgiving of that. Like, that, like, movie magic, I'm okay with the kid learning how to use the jetpack very quickly, but, like, we're in this weird other world, and then it's just kind of like, I don't have a connection to anyone, and so as an audience member, like, I don't know what the place is, I don't know the people, I don't know anything, and I need one of them, and then I can connect to it.
Exactly. I think that's the problem for me with the, like, him doing this crazy stunt, is that I don't have any connection to him yet, so I'm just kind of watching it for visual explosion, and there's no reason for me to be like, woohoo, he figured out how to use it. It's just kind of like, and that's happening. Yeah. It's crazy too for the fact that they spend so much time on Frank as a kid at the beginning, and then he's functionally not our protagonist. We don't get to the person who is, quote, supposed to be driving this story until I don't know how long.
He's not the protagonist until he's back in the movie, and then he's the protagonist again. Which is very weird. As a writer, as an audience member, I'm sure people don't notice.
Totally.
Because it's like, oh, George Clooney's here? We're going to pay attention to George Clooney. And it's like, I mean, okay, poor Casey, but, like, I get it. But also, like, come on. He's like, because then basically after that, and you're like, all right, well, kid, I guess you're in. and then we just go to some girl sabotaging Cape Canaveral.
Right. It is kind of jarring, and it is interesting the way that they sort of hand off whoever the protagonist is based on whoever they need to move the story forward.
Yeah.
But not in a way that feels motivated or justified. They're kind of flat, unfortunately.
Like, the move from one to the other doesn't bother me, and I do think that's something that we will end up keeping, sort of. But, like, that doesn't necessarily bother me. It's just, like, if we're setting up this character as background, but, like, they de facto become because he has the most... Casey doesn't change as a person, but Frank does. Yes. Therefore, he's the lead. Like, if Casey changed over the course of the movie, that'd be different. But, like, the whole point of the movie is that she, as she is the hope and the solution.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes her the MacGuffin and Frank the lead character. It's just not told from his perspective.
Right. The sequence of events that's set into place in order to bring him back to Tomorrowland is all being motivated by her. Even though she's not going, like you said, on a journey to change. She's just sort of, like, setting it into motion. And I think that's why I feel strange about it being handed off between them, is it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like if she didn't exist, he would not be going on this journey. But I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to get at is it doesn't feel like they're working together in a way that moves the story forward. It just kind of seems...
And when we get to our version, we'll fix it. But for the purposes of the plot of the movie that exists, Casey is sabotaging Cape Canaveral because they're taking it down. They're not doing space exploration anymore. And part of that is motivated by her dad being a NASA engineer who's out of work. Mm-hmm. Relevant. And so all of this is being spied on by a little girl driving a truck. And the little girl finds Casey's scooter.
I think it's a motorcycle.
Is it a motorcycle? Is she old enough for that?
I think she's supposed to be like 16, so... and in Florida you might be able to. I'm
maybe.
Not sure.
I don't think a 16 or 17-year-old girl should be sharing a room with her little brother, but that's that's separate. Athena, the little girl, hides a pin, charges her last pin, hides it in Casey's stuff on the motorcycle, and then pieces out. At which point, Casey goes through this whole thing. She's, like, sabotaging the stuff to try to, like, prevent Cape Canaveral from being shut down. And the dad's like, it's going to be shut down. I'm out of work next week. And she's like, oh, man.
Rats.
So she goes back to try to do more and is immediately arrested. She goes to jail. Stuff happens. I don't know what happens in the middle of that.
She touches the pin.
Only when she's getting out of jail.
Oh, you're right.
So do we just, like, jump forward?
I think she's pretty quickly bailed out.
Okay. She's bailed out. I assume by Dad, because he's the one who picks her up, and she's, like, collecting her stuff, and the last thing she gets is the pin, and when she touches it, she's in a different world, which fundamentally is awesome.
100%.
It's a trailer moment, right?
Yeah, I think that is what made me want to see the movie. The moment where she touches it and is somewhere else, with that Tomorrowland logo on it. That's definitely what I remember. Yeah.
That's so... interesting and cool, and it's not really something you see in any other movie.
No, I remember at the time when we saw the trailer, I was in film school, I was still in film school, and my mom, when she saw it, said something like, oh, this seems like the kind of movie you and your friends would make, because that seems like, it seems like such a gimmick that you would only see in that kind of thing and bigger movies don't rely upon, but seeing it at that scale is so cool.
Yeah, and, like, it's a lot of fun, and, like, just that alone, I believe, is enough concept to make a movie just because it's so interesting. Incidentally, I just pulled up the poster, and it's Tomorrowland, George Clooney. Well, and the poster is a picture of both young and old George Clooney. Casey is not on the poster.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah, that's
She's only the impetus for the movie, but whatever.
Yeah, she's only the, like, audience surrogate.
She also, just a moment for... It's Britt Robertson, right? That's... who Casey is?
I don't know. What are we talking about? The actress?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, Britt Robertson.
For just, like, a moment for Britt Robertson, because she does do a great job in this movie. She's, like, 25 playing 16 and is somehow making
no, really?
somehow doing her best with it, but also, like, this is a very physical role, and I do think there's a good amount of the stuff at the top that's her.
Oh, yeah.
Not to shame a stunt double, because I'm sure they did a whole lot of amazing work, but she really, like, put her whole self into that.
Oh, yeah.
She should be on the poster.
I think she does an amazing job of delivering some really iffy lines. Like, well, there's some line, like, Athena, like, the little girl who's the actress is named Raffi Cassidy. First of all, this little girl, they have CGI'd her eyes to be bigger than they are, and it weirded me out the whole movie because it's so Uncanny Valley.
I didn't clock that.
Oh, man. No, they make her eyes bigger.
I'm gonna have to look again, because I think I just thought she was...
She just had giant eyes?
Yeah, just like a very unnatural looking child. But
right.
not in a... It didn't creep me out that much. But I'm gonna have to look again.
Yeah. Like, it instantly, I was like, something's wrong with her face. Like, I instantly just recoiled. And I didn't know that, like, I may have known that in the past, but I didn't know that now. And I went in and I was like, no, absolutely not. But, like, the actress is doing a good job. And she has some really lines where she just goes, who are you? And she just goes, I'm the future. And they do that somewhere between half a dozen and a dozen times in this movie. And, like, once is cheesy, 8 times it's too much. There's a good amount of cheeseball lines. Quite a lot. Especially because it's not true. So what we end up seeing is when Casey touches the pin, she gets views of a place called Tomorrowland. But she's still physically in the real world. So she ends up figuring out a way to... She waits till everyone goes to sleep, then she goes and, like touching the pin occasionally, like, navigates her way to the city in the distance, which ends up being an empty lot in her town, which is very convenient because it could very well not have been. And she ends up getting to walk around this entire magical world of Tomorrowland. The big change I am going to recommend we make to this movie is that Tomorrowland, as it exists in this movie, is another dimension. And I think that's the mistake. I think Tomorrowland needs to genuinely be the future. And, like, the more you make it this other dimension and we're traveling between other dimensions, and, like, even at the end when Hugh Laurie's like, well, it's going to happen to them, we're going to be fine. It's like, yeah, because you live in another dimension. You aren't what these people will become. Their future doesn't affect you. You're someplace else. And I think that's the problem. We'll get to that later, but, like, the fact that it's like, oh, yeah, we're going to another dimension. I'm like, then why have you been saying you're the future? You're the present, just elsewhere. Right. I think there's definitely a better opportunity for it to be, or even like a fringe future or something where it's clear that the events that happen on Earth lead to that and not that they're lording over it from somewhere else. Correct. Totally. I see that. But anyway, Casey, the pin runs out of batteries. So then what happens after that? The pin runs out of battery. What does happen after that? She starts Googling the pin and the images and looking for anyone who has anything about this kind of pin. Right. So she starts looking for the pin and gets a hit on a, like, comic sci-fi store in Texas. Yeah, nerd store. Which has a whole lot of great Easter eggs in it. She tells her little brother to tell her father that she's going camping. Classic excuse. Goes to Houston. I think it's Houston. It must be. Which also makes me think that it's not Cape Canaveral. It's Houston. Because it's like a Houston, we have a problem, or wherever it was. Because she didn't she didn't motorcycle across the country, right? Well, they do say Canaveral repeatedly. Oh, they do? So she did go from Florida to Texas? Yeah. That's wild. Okay, yes, you're correct. That is what happened. I'm sorry, continue. That's a good distance. Yeah. That's multiple days. It's definitely long. I don't know how you could excuse that away with a weekend camping trip. Also unclear if this is during the school year, but... I mean, she's 25. I don't think that matters. Right. She's graduated from college. It's totally fine. Yeah. And then... The economy's bad. She's living with her dad. Yeah. Times are tough. She goes to this comic book store, shows them the pin. And she walks in and it's Catherine Hahn and Keegan-Michael Key. Which, their names are Ursula and Hugo, which is excellent. Excellent sci-fi references. You're going to have to let me know. Well, like Ursula Le Guin... I might be pronouncing her name incorrectly. I think that's the right pronunciation. The, like, mother of sci-fi, basically. Uh-huh. And then I assume Hugo is Victor Hugo. I would assume. But I don't... Sure, that's fine. Yeah. I'm happy with that. They're in the comic book store. Right. A bunch of nerdy stuff. She shows them the pin. Whole bunch of nerdy stuff at this comic book store. 95% of it is Star Wars related. Absolutely. They put Keegan-Michael Key in a fat suit. Which... questionable, but he is also a robot, so... and a wig with dreads. Yeah. There were some choices made, which I hope he was involved in, but if not, they were bad. I mean, it's 2015. Like, Key and Peele was happening at this point, right? It had either just happened or was currently happening. I can't remember if they were done by then. Key and Peele was 2012 to 2015. Yeah, so it was right off the tail end of that. Yeah. Yep. right at the tail end, and then Catherine Hahn is obviously Catherine Hahn.
Yeah, timeless.
Absolutely.
Timeless, amazing. They are interested in the pin. Mm-hmm. They want to know more about where she got it.
Yeah, they want to know where she got it, who gave it to her.
Right. Who gave it to her? She doesn't want to tell them. They bring up that it's a little girl, and suddenly things start getting a little weird.
Yeah, they don't let her leave. They lock down the comic book store.
Which I'm sure some people would love to be locked in a comic book store. Personally, not really on
I can only survive on vending machine food for so long.
Right, and staring directly into Han Solo and Carbonate.
Yo, yeah, that's right. But, like, yeah, so then Athena, the little robot girl, we don't know she's a robot yet, but we're about to find out, busts in, saves Casey, and takes out Ursula and Hugo, and in doing so is like, we gotta get out of here, they're about to explode, and then they run out of the store, and Hugo and Ursula explode. Second mistake of the movie. We'll get back to that.
That you don't like the explode?
Well, that too, but I'd like... you take your big comedy, like... They could have been our Team Rocket for the rest of the movie.
Oh, for sure. They were definitely not doing the heavy lifting that they needed to be doing. They're both capable of so much.
Yeah, and then we get replaced by weirdly generic white dudes with the creepy smiles who then robot chase them around the entire world.
Right, which I don't hate that, but I do feel exactly what you're saying, that yes, it would have been way more fun to be chased by
it's Keegan-Michael Key and Catherine Hahn.
Exactly. Way more fun to be chased by them, especially if they keep, changing disguises.
Yeah.
That would be so fun.
Or, being really bad at changing disguises.
Yes, their head's on backwards or something.
Or just, it's just a really terrible mustache, but on Catherine Hahn.
Yes. And he's in the dress. She's in some nerd comic book dude outfit.
Go full Team Rocket.
Yeah.
They are your comedic antagonists.
Yeah, and there are some good funny moments in this movie that they definitely could have extrapolated on. They could have expanded that by having them be more... I mean, maybe there was more of them initially and it got cut. Who knows?
Yeah. So, anyway, Athena takes Casey away. They're driving away and she's like, I gave you the pin. It's like, hey, why didn't you hang out? It's like, that's not important. Stop asking questions. What happens if I keep asking questions? I'll pass out. That's weird. Look, robots are...
That's an excellent robot impression. That's a great robot shutting down impression.
Thank you. But and so basically what ends up happening is Casey's like, you need help because we got to get you there or whatever it is. And so she drops Casey off at Frank Walker's place, and really means that because Casey falls asleep in the car and Athena literally drops her on the side of the road outside Frank Walker's place.
An excellent jump cut, by the way. I loved it.
It was very, very fun. And then she goes in and is immediately scared off by a dog, but then she realizes that the dog's feet aren't making paw prints in the dirt. Mm-hmm. And she's like, the dog's a hologram.
Loved that.
Yeah, I like that too. And this whole area is super high-tech advanced technology in ways that we can't expect. And also Frank Walker says, you can't come in, get out of here. But she doesn't. She lights his tractor on fire. And he
classic 16-year-old move.
Classic 16-year-old. And he has to run out with a Mr. Freeze style fire extinguisher.
It's a very futuristic safety device.
Yeah, that fire is out.
It is.
But in doing so, Casey gets in the house and then locks Frank out, and all this other stuff's happening. And then and Frank gets back in the house. I don't remember how.
I think there's some trick he does, something he knows about the house that she doesn't know, that he uses to get in. I can't recall.
Yeah, something like that. And then basically she finds his watch room where he's keeping an eye on a bunch of different things, and there's a 100% and a timer. And she's like, no, we have to do things. We have to believe in things. And her saying we have to believe in stuff and believe in the future has the 100% flicker and go down to a 99.95. And he's like, wait. And just in that moment, because it's George Clooney, he does an amazing job. You just see him just completely shift perspective, and all of a sudden now he's all in, which is good timing because robots show up.
Perfect timing. The robots show up. It's in this moment that Frank realizes that he actually does need to get her away from these robots and go back to Tomorrowland. So the robots are coming. They're smashing up his house. They're destroying things. Makes me very anxious to watch. And then he pulls Casey into the bathtub, which becomes like an escape pod.
Yeah.
Basically, which is also fun.
Yep.
Seeing them smooshed into a bathtub.
Fully support.
And now he's all in. And him and Athena are...
Well, they get launched into a lake, and they're like, well, what do we do now? A truck shows up. Athena's driving it, and she's like, all right, everybody get in. And he's like, you've been here the whole time?
Right.
This kid... Ooh...
I'm gonna do something.
Yeah. We are going to heavily imply that 60-year-old George Clooney is in love with this 10-year-old robot. This robot who looks 10 years old, or whatever her deal is.
Yeah, that could have been done a little bit more delicately, I think.
Yeah, it's... Like, I'm perfectly happy with George Clooney having a buddy cop thing with a 10-year-old, but, like, we get that the kid version fell in love. And, like, George Clooney very much wasn't portraying it that way because he was clearly past that. Mm-hmm. So, like, I do think they did a good job, but there's that little thing in the back of your head that's like, this is a little weird.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's, like, maybe, like, a little line in there that's, like, clear that it was the past or something. But, quite honestly, I don't think I would be thinking about that if everything else was in check.
It also doesn't help that it's George Clooney, and, like, there's a Milana Weintraub video that went around sometime in the last couple of months where it's like, it's George Clooney. Even when you're 9, you realize that how handsome he is. And she talks about how she was like, she had a guest spot when she was 9 on ER. And like, apparently like she saw George Clooney and was like, do you want to come over to our house for dinner? And she's like, apparently her mom just like got embarrassed and was like, no, Melania, no.
Oh, come on. Her mom was like, don't say that, but do you want to come over to dinner? Yeah.
And so it's just like one of those things of just like, oh no, the powers of George Clooney or George Clooneying.
Can't resist them.
However, big escape, bunch of different things. Basically, how do they get to Paris?
He goes to some warehouse that he has this like pod in that's hooked up to the satellites. And that's the bit where he gives her like a packet of sugar and is like, your blood sugar is going to drop to nothing. You're going to feel like you want to die and then it'll be over. Here we go. And then they basically vibrate themselves to Paris.
Yes. And then they get to Paris and there's Coke in the fridge. She drinks hers and then also drinks his. Which means that he's spending the rest of the movie operating at 0% blood sugar. I keep being like, someone get this guy a Twinkie. Yeah. He's going to die.
I did think that.
The rest of the movie.
Well, at least for the next 10 minutes, I was like, she drank both of his Cokes. Okay, product placement. And then I was like, well, he's not a superhuman. Yeah. So unless there's some Tomorrowland thing that they did to his blood sugar so that he could permanently never have diabetes or something.
Right.
He's got to fall over here soon.
Yeah. So basically they go to Paris so they can tap into the secret spaceship that's inside/underneath the Eiffel Tower that will get them to Tomorrowland.
Yeah, and he has this whole speech about how inventors and science founding fathers that are mannequins in this exhibit were the founders of Plus Ultra, which we only hear about in this moment.
Yeah, the superpower from My Hero Academia.
Right. Which I think also there's some sort of Disney history with that. There's some lore there. I don't entirely know it, but it's a throwaway line here.
Plus Ultra.
Super fun. And then they turn the Eiffel Tower the Eiffel Tower is a launching point for a rocket ship to Tomorrowland, basically.
Yes. So they get launched into space. Casey's loving it. The robots that attacked didn't quite make it. One of them cracks the window. It's not relevant. The rocket turns around, flies back, turns into a portal, and now they're in Tomorrowland. Act 3.
And here we go.
So now we're in Tomorrowland, but Tomorrowland doesn't look like the Tomorrowland that was in Casey's Pin vision. It looks a lot sadder and bleaker. And they immediately get arrested by Hugh Laurie and some robots. And they're like, well, you got here. Great, but it doesn't really matter because the world's about to end in 50-something days. So It's like, hey, cool. None of this matters. It's like, and George Clooney's like, but it could matter. Look at her. She can do the thing. She has hope. And they're like, nope, not quite. Let's get you back in the tube. We're sending you back. And they realize that the reason why everything is dour and sucks on Earth is because Tomorrowland is broadcasting a signal of everything's going to die, everything sucks. So therefore they made it so that everyone's going to die and everything sucks.
Right, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
Which Hugh Laurie does have a great little speech about, which I did really like, talking about how ideally when people are confronted with hardship, they should want to overcome it, but instead what's happened basically is that everyone's told it's going to be bad, and so they've just accepted that it's going to be bad, and humanity is weak because of this, and therefore should get their just desserts. Which I did think was a really cool idea. It's a cool concept for a villain to be disappointed in humanity for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. We do get to a point where it's like, yeah, but why are you doing this? Yeah, because they deserve it. And so, like, fundamentally, yes, I do think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We fight, we get the thing turned off, Hillary gets taken out, and now we can send out an image. So the world doesn't end, which is great. And we end working towards a bigger, better, brighter future. We end on an image of hope, inspiring a bunch of different people, reaching out to the people who can help make this a better, brighter future. And a better, brighter future starts today, and it starts with you. Hope, the movie.
Totally. That's what I was thinking about the entire time.
And this came out in 2015.
We've done really well with all that hope. Things are perfect. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no problems.
Yeah, things didn't start going real shitty the next year.
Literally immediately after.
I'm not
going to say it's Tomorrowland's fault, but...
But I will say that if Tomorrowland had been a success, maybe
we wouldn't just be rolling over and taking the bad things. Maybe Hugh Laurie evil version is correct.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about humanity, is that we're very, very good at adapting.
Totally.
And putting our head in the sand. But that's separate.
Right.
But that's the movie as it exists. Let's talk about what we want the movie to be. Other than, like, obviously I think we both want it to be, like, hope. Like the concept, the core of the movie of being hope and inspiring hope, I think is correct and good.
Yeah, and as a big Disney fan, I think that's exactly what the spirit of the Tomorrowland part of the park and the 1964 World's Fair and what Walt, despite possibly having a whole bunch of other horrible things about him, wanted and was working towards. And it makes sense that that would be the point of the movie.
Yep. I'm going to pivot a little bit. Have you ever heard of a book called This Is How You Lose the Time War?
I have not.
Okay. So it's a book, it's not even very long. It's like 150, 200 pages. And it's good, but like the concept of the book is that there are two different agents from two different futures. And basically they're going back in time to manipulate the timeline so that their future is the one that ends up happening. So it's these two potential futures sending like Terminators back. And it's like rival Terminators like trying to make it so that the timeline ends up with their future.
Right.
And like one's an organic paradise and one's like a technology paradise or whatever it is. Paradise, dystopia, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're both dystopian in one way or another. They're both paradise in one way or the other. But basically, the idea is that it's agents from a future coming back to make sure that their future comes about. Like a Sarah Connor Chronicles. Show that we've all seen and talk about all the time.
Yeah, constantly comes up.
But the thing that I pull from that is that I think Tomorrowland needs to be the future. You can't just say we're the future over and over and over and over again in the movie and then have it not actually be the future.
Yeah.
It needs to be the future, but then that future, like, we need to see the big, hopeful, wonderful future that everyone believed it could be in the 50s when everyone believed of the Jetsons and this and that. Like, the 50s idea of a chrome future is awesome. And, like, that can be the future. Like, this place exists because, like, this future exists because people believed it would happen.
Yeah.
And then it falls apart and crumbles because that's what people believe the future will be now. People believe that the climate disaster, the capitalism, everything else is going to destroy the future. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Totally. It ties all of the ends together about exactly the self-fulfilling prophecy. If that's being broadcast from the future to the past, it literally is a time loop. And seeing a place that's amazing in the little pin commercial, basically, and then showing up and it being trash, it gives direct causation. It makes so much more sense.
Yes. And so I really like the idea of this future being a future that exists, but it's a moving thing because it becomes the future that people believe it will be, but it is still the future. And so that future has crumbled and like fallen away. And Hugh Laurie himself the Hugh Laurie character, whose name is Mayor Nix.
I think he's a governor.
It says Mayor Nix.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. Hugh Laurie. Oh no, it says Nix. Tomorrowland movie. Next.
I thought it was governor because I remember having a little joke in my head that he was British and it was governor.
Oh, funny. You were correct. He is the governor of Tomorrowland. I don't know why I wrote mayor. You were right. I'm wrong.
That's okay.
I agree that you would think it was okay.
Well, I meant I'm not upset
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you were wrong. It's okay. I don't need to be right all the time. I just happen to be that time.
But yeah, so like the idea of like even he himself can be corrupted by all of this, and just like, and that can be what sours the Frank Walker George Clooney character of like, he saw this wonderful amazing future and he watched that crumble. Of course that's going to make him bitter. And like everyone around him believes that this terrible future is going to happen, and then when someone despite all of that doesn't and can inspire hope in other people, yeah, you hold on to that. You celebrate that person and you bring them up as much as you can. And I feel like that's the movie.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And all of those things, all those ideas are in the movie, but are definitely, like you're saying, they're weakened by the fact that this place that exists is not being directly affected by people currently on Earth. They have to go through jumping through all of these hoops to get to this place to fix what's happening now, where it should be whatever they're doing now is affecting in real time, relatively, what's happening in Tomorrowland.
Yeah, and like Nyx, the Hugh Laurie character, can very much be like, oh, I mean, yeah, the city sucks, but I keep becoming more powerful and having more money. I'm living better than I've ever lived before. It's just too bad that the town itself, Tomorrowland, is kind of going to shit. It's very much the burn the world down to rule over the ashes, Sun Tzu quote.
Totally.
But I feel like a lot of the plot and things that exist in the movie as it is kind of can get repaired by, it's genuinely like everything we do affects there.
Yeah.
But also, I don't want the faceless bad guys. I very much want Ursula and Hugo to be chasing them down, doing the kind of like comedic Team Rocket thing we talked about, because like, why not? These robots were designed to be hopeful and like symbol and find the people who can bring about a better tomorrow. And now they're still doing that, but in a bad way. Yeah,
I totally agree with you. I think somewhat of, not a plot hole, but something that I was upset with in the movie is that, yeah, these like Secret Service robots show up, and then as soon as they get to Tomorrowland, the Secret Service robots are no longer relevant.
Yeah.
And it's unclear why they have the Secret Service robots when the other robots they have, like Athena, are recruitment. Yeah. So I think exactly what you're saying, having those characters who are even in place as like comic book store owners, that's exactly where you find people who are thinking outside of the box.
Absolutely.
It makes sense that they would then be the people who continue in
and
the
you
story.
just like, you do the reprogram, and Athena's the one that like avoided the reprogramming.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my next question. Why do you put a bomb in a 10-year-old robot? In a robot looking like a 10-year-old? Like,
so unsuspected.
Yeah, because like Hugo and Ursula, like, they're the bad guys. They've got bombs in them, and then it's just like, no, all the robots. And it's like, wait, but why does Athena have that? She was the good one that got away. She's the hopeful. She's the good one. But there's still a bomb in her?
You talking about the
self-destruct
thing?
It's a big bomb.
It is a big bomb. It's a big enough bomb to destroy this whole thing that they said was indestructible.
Yeah.
Which I think they wouldn't think was indestructible if they thought they could just chuck a robot in there.
Right.
That is a big question.
Yeah, I also don't remember them saying it was indestructible, but...
Or they kept saying it couldn't be done. Unstoppable.
Yeah. But also, they didn't realize that was the reason that, like, that was causing the future. Or
true.
Like, George Clooney was like, it's unstoppable. It's 100% that this terrible apocalypse is going to happen.
Right.
It's not that because of the machine. He just thought that was the future, not because it was being projected.
Okay, fair. Totally.
But, like, I just don't think you should have a robot or a bomb inside these robots. But that's separate, because that way we also get to see Hugo and Ursula get beat up and destroyed a bunch of times, and they put themselves back together, and then they're after it again.
Yeah, and their limbs are on backwards.
Yeah, they switch limbs.
Oh, that would be so fun.
And then, like, you get to the end of the movie, and they're, like, reprogrammed again. It's like, yeah, no, we get to go back to our comic book shop. I was halfway through that run of Daredevil. I'm so excited to find out what happens. I sure hope he's okay. Buddy. How many comic book runs have you read so far? All of them. But I've got a good feeling about this one. Oh, no.
Sure. It'll be great.
Yeah, they always end up fine.
Yes, especially the comic books where the characters are dark and tortured. They always end up really happy endings.
Yeah, they're fighting a bad guys called the Dark Hand, or just the Hand. Yeah, it's the Hand because the Daredevil fights the hand, Ninja Turtles fight the foot.
Because they're in the sewer, so they're like literally.
Oh yeah, maybe. No, but like I think because it was a parody of like the Ninja Turtles.
Oh, that makes sense.
It genuinely was.
That's so funny.
Okay, so what else needs to happen in our version of the movie? Like we already have some like set pieces and stuff. Like we already like have a rocket in the middle of the Eiffel Tower.
I do love that.
It's fun, but I feel like we've seen that now. So what's what's a different kind of like fun set piece that we can have that's like indicative of we used to believe, like, because it's the same sort of thing like we do in Men in Black, where we go to the World's Fair and then it turns out the big things on the top of the sticks are spaceships and they take off and go into space. Like, what other fun 50s era technology can we rely on? Because that's the fun of this, is like you're getting to play around with like retrofuturism.
Yeah.
And retrofuturism is dope.
I mean, something more specific to the time of it all. I mean, maybe a different Disney attraction. Carousel of Progress could be a time machine, something like that.
So that's the other question. Like, the beginning of this movie, which I also think we'll go back to, because I think we need to have a different beginning of the movie. The beginning of the movie, the World's Fair is at Disneyland, because they go to It's a Small World.
It's in New York, so the attractions that are there that are Disney were originally at the World's Fair and then later got moved to the parks.
Oh.
So It's Small World was originally at the 1964 World's Fair.
I did not know that.
There's a whole lot of stuff specifically at that World's Fair that became like Tomorrowland and Epcot.
Great. All of those things would have been great to be told in the movie.
Yeah, I guess they kind of rely upon that kind of lore being in the zeitgeist, and I guess if you're not a big old Disney nerd like I am,
and I'm not,
you would not know that, so maybe a little bit more hint. I also have a complaint that I did not see any hidden Mickeys in this movie, and I do require that, but whatever.
There do need to be more hidden Mickeys in this movie, but I think you hit the thing that I want, which is there's that big globe at Epcot Center that doesn't really do anything.
There's a ride inside of it.
Sure. Let's make that ride. Let's make the globe itself how we get to Tomorrowland.
I mean, yeah, the whole theme of that ride is called Spaceship Earth, is that they take you through history and how sort of man has evolved, how we learned how to read, how we learned how to talk to each other, how, you know, art came about and all of these kinds of things. And now they have this bit where it ends, where you answer questions about what you want the future to look like, because the whole message is like, we've been on this whole journey together on Earth over these years. What is the future going to look like? What are you going to do to make that future happen? So that retheming is pretty on theme with what Tomorrowland should be.
Yeah, so it sounds like we should just do that and use that as it exists. And if they answer the questions correctly, it takes them there.
That sounds super cool. I would love that. Like, the ride track just, like, slips you off into a separate track and you shoot backwards. Ugh.
Well, forwards. We're going to the future.
Right. Yeah. I guess that makes sense. But also so Judi Dench narrates that ride. I would love Judi Dench to narrate the bit where she's like, please fasten your seatbelts.
Yes.
Begin your journey to Tomorrowland.
100%. Like, you want to do Disney nerd lore stuff? Have the ride that takes you to the future. Take you to the future.
Yeah. Man, I would have loved that. So cool. I'm glad we're talking about it now.
That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, if we're going to do, like, because Tomorrowland exists because it's like, hey, Pirates of the Caribbean was fun. Let's do another Disney ride into a movie kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
What other Disney nerd thing do you want to put in this movie?
Oh, gosh. So much. I mean, the Astro Orbiters could have been, instead of the Eiffel Tower, the Astro Orbiters ride in Tomorrowland could have been, like, it has like big antenna on it. Maybe it's some kind of signal, and I would have loved something maybe in Disney World they have the utilidors, which is like how the cast members move around underneath the ground.
Sure.
Something to do with that, perhaps, where it's like hidden. I think it seems like they were trying to avoid specifically mentioning Walt Disney at any point during this, or like specifically mentioning Disney while still using all of the Disney property stuff.
Yeah,
which is strange to me.
We don't have to do that. We can.
Leaning into it would have been cool.
Yeah, I'm not interested in going back and saying, boy, Disney sure was a great guy.
Right.
I don't want to Saving Mr. Banks this.
Yeah.
But, like, I do think we can be like, I mean, look, Disneyland is very expensive, and Walt Disney had a lot of money, but not theme park money. But, you know who did have theme park money? this secret society that got him to build some rides certain ways.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to say something about a secret society plus Ultra, whatever, like, bring all of those major scientists into it, then lean in.
I mean, just skip the middleman. Call them Imagineers.
Yeah. Oh, man. This is giving me chills.
But, like, if you want to do, like, the Disney iconography, do the Disney iconography.
Yeah.
It's plus Ultra means nothing. Imagineers does. That's a thing. That's a term people are going to be familiar with. And if these people have been calling themselves the Imagineers for hundreds of years because they're engineering the world they imagine, great. And, like, that's now kind of a part of the Disneyland experience, or the Disney World experience, because I assume we'll be in Florida. And so that's why I kind of want, use that terminology. Like, I don't think we should shy away from things that exist and people are familiar with. Like, let's give people the chills. Let's give people the, like, I know that. That's what that means. That's where that word comes from. We're making it up for the purposes of the movie, but, like, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, like, I very much feel like we can, like, I even think you could set it up as a joke of, we get to Disney World, and it's like, oh, and I bet that we have to use the rockets to get to the future. And they get in, they use the rockets. It's like, okay, when does it go? It's like, it doesn't. This is just a ride. It's like, oh, why'd you let me get on it? It seemed like you wanted to have some fun.
Yeah. That's great. And then the actual...
We waited in line for 45 minutes. Yeah. We didn't have time for that. I think it was worth it.
Yeah. Or like, oh, we had a fast pass, don't worry.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And then it actually ends up being something else. But
well, then they get to the world, the Future Dome. What was it called?
In Epcot, it's called Spaceship Earth.
Spaceship Earth. Then they get to Spaceship Earth, and it's like, oh, Spaceship Earth, yeah. And I thought it was the rocket ship, yeah. But this one's called Spaceship Earth. That does make more sense. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, I do love the idea. Just in general, I love the idea of something like that hiding in plain sight.
Yes,
like the
absolutely.
idea that, like, of course that's where it is.
But, like, you have Disney. Why does it need to be the Eiffel Tower? That's separate.
Yeah, it is. I don't know why it seemed to be like, we want to use the IP, but we don't want to use the IP.
Yeah, they would use the IP now.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's been 10 years. Now they're all IP.
Yeah.
So let's do it. Let's lean in. Okay. So I want to redo the beginning of the movie, because I don't think we need the talking to camera George Clooney of it all. Mm-mm. But I like the idea of this little kid kind of being inspired and being drawn into the world of tomorrow. But instead of him having to prove himself to the Hugh Laurie character, I want him to do this thing, show off, and Hugh Laurie's like, oh my god, that's amazing. Come on down. But I think we should see him being recruited by Athena first, of like, this, like, you do the kid who is kind of like, just kind of the nerdy kid hanging out on his own, just kind of like tinkering, and this new girl comes to school, meets him, and is like, oh, you're really smart. Hey, do you want to come play after school? Me? Are you sure? Yeah, come play. And then they go play, and it's like, oh, showing off this whole big, cool, amazing technology. It's like, oh, if you think this is cool, look at this. And it's just like technology out the wazoo. Hey, I know a place where we can hang out with technology like this all the time. Mm-hmm. Wow! And then we get to Casey Newton, who is our hopeful view of a better tomorrow. And I think she needs to meet the George Clooney, Frank Walker character within 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, it's got to be quick. I especially think that the bit where she's touching the pin and, like, seeing the world, I think you really only need the first time she touches it and then her figuring it out and seeing the full experience. I think the amount of times they go back and forth with that just kind of wastes time. We definitely need to get to Frank faster. I
also think that we can use the pin as the thing that gets her to Frank. Like, let's say they live in the same town. But, like, the whole idea of the pin is it's bringing her forward, and it's, like, it is like, she gets to the town, and then she goes through the walking tour of the town. And, like, it finally runs out of power, and then she's at this house, mm-hmm. and she's like, I don't understand what's here. I don't get what's going on.
I think it's very feasible that Athena could have programmed the pin to do that as well, because she's trying to bring them together.
Right, like, that's the whole idea. But, like, Athena just, like, disappears for a little bit. And I think very much, like, Athena knows that she's being tracked because she's a robot. They can track her.
Yeah.
And so, like, she'll drop a thing off and do these different things. And, like, let's say the pin runs out of power early. And, like, it was trying to take her to the house, but instead it drops her off outside. Let's say it accidentally drops her off outside the toy store or something else. Like, we need a reason for her to be interacting. no, we'll do it the other way. It does take her to Frank Walker's house, and he kicks her out, and she goes, fine, I don't need to deal with you anyway, weird old man who I didn't want to be here in the first place. And then she goes looking for the pin online. She finds in town this nerd store, this comic book shop. She goes in, finds out, the robots attack her, and she gets away. And she gets away by Athena, who's like, no, I dropped you off at the house. What are you doing back here?
Yeah.
And, like, that's when we get to start, like, actually doing Tomorrowland stuff.
Yeah, and it still keeps the fun reveal where it's like, oh, the older version is George Clooney, like, or whoever we cast. Like, it's a fun little... Yeah. Getting to see him when he's in his full, you know...
Right.
I was gonna say regalia, but he's in, like, a button-down in his nasty lawn.
Yeah, he's very well put together, for someone who's been living like a hermit, isolating himself for, I want to say, 40 years.
They say it's 25. I think in the movie they say it's 25, and I kept thinking to myself, he's 55 years old.
Well, yeah, but let's say he's 55 years old. Does that mean that he was in Tomorrowland until he was 30?
I think he left 25 years ago. I think he, like, grew up as an adult there, which is a whole other crazy thing that we don't need to get into.
It doesn't matter. That's, like, not really relevant. But, like, basically, like, it drops him off at the house. Frank Walker rejects her. She goes, she finds the comic book nerds. Now they know, and now they're tracking her. And now Athena's like, I didn't want to get involved because now it's easier to track you because I'm here, but let's get you into Frank Walker, and now all these different shenanigans happen. Frank Walker's convinced that the future can become hopeful and bright again, because if she believes and she's convincing other people around her, he feels himself being convinced. He's like, wow, I'm a bitter piece of shit. If you're convincing me, you're really good. We got to get you out of here. You're at 73 on the something scale.
Oh my gosh, what was the name of that scale?
Like, what is that?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Like, we don't need that. I'm making a joke, but we don't need that. And, like, we go out, we do the thing. Tomorrowland. It's a great, big, beautiful world. Whatever. That's from something. WALL-E.
Well, it's from the Carousel of Progress.
Yeah.
It's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
It's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. I've never been on the Carousel of Progress.
You shouldn't. That's one of those songs that you will have in your head intermittently for the next 30 years.
Ah, interesting. That sounds powerful.
I will be taking that home with me.
Well, it sounds like the sort of thing that, like, a movie that is worried about things getting stuck in people's heads could really rely on.
Yeah, or it could be some kind of musical transmission that you need to be singing that to get to the future. I don't know.
Let's not even do that. Let's have this dark, sad, miserable man who's desperately sad about the world's going to end and everything's terrible. When he needs to calm himself down, that's what he listens to. This, like, I used to believe in hope. This reminds me of a time when I used to have hope. And then he listens to that.
Yeah, I also would love, like, for that to be, like, a haunting version to be worked into the score at some point. It would be super cool.
We need to do that. But because, again, it's the corrupting of everything. So, like, absolutely, yes. But yeah, then we go on our adventures, we get to Epcot, we do all the different things, and we get to the future. Do we want the future to be projecting backwards? Because I think that's stupid.
Oh.
Because we're now 10 years in the future, and we do believe things are dark. Yeah. Like, it is dark, and everyone, like, all, like, darkness is happening, and there are terrible people. But it's very much the way we get out of this is by supporting each other and mutual aid and helping each other and believing people and smarting everyone at the bottom so we can fight the people on the top. Mm-hmm. And then I think that's what needs to actually happen in Tomorrowland. And so if it happens there in the future, then why can't we believe that it will happen in the present?
Right.
And so that's what I think they need to do. I think the whole purpose of Casey is that she's an inspiration and she inspires people to believe and hope and think that they can make things better. So let's have her inspire the people of Tomorrowland who are in this bleak, horrible, miserable future to hope and believe and want to have a better world again, and they can rise up and take their power back from this now evil Governor Nix.
Yeah, and also if a lot of the people that live in Tomorrowland, if they've been recruited from different timelines, then they have connections back to their present timeline.
Sure,
that's something they can take back.
Absolutely.
And keep that feedback loop going.
Well, yeah. Well, you can also have the conversation of, hey, if these were all of the people who were going to inspire and bring about a better tomorrow, and then you took them out of time and brought them to the future, they never went back and, like, created the things that were going to make that better tomorrow.
Yeah.
You just stored it for the future, and now the future they were going to create never happened because they weren't there to create it.
Right, and this Nix character is basically creating basically like an alt future where he's in charge and all of these people are doing all of their wonders for him and his place instead of the world.
Well, it's also very much the, like, you want the end result without the work. It's fun to have written, it sucks to write.
Boy, is that true.
But, like, very much it's like, hey, it sure would be great if I just had a really good script I wrote.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? Flash forward 7 years.
Well, that's what they've been offering people this whole time of, like, hey, you're working towards an amazing future. Wouldn't it be great if you were already there?
Yeah, so we can support you, do your thing so much better.
It's taking all these people, and they have to go back to their time so that they can work towards a big, beautiful, wonderful future. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a lot of work. But we now know that we can get there. Yeah. And we can get there together. And it's about inspiring people not to go to a future, but to believe in a future that they can help make.
And that connects back to that whole "we are the future" thing, because we all are the future.
We are the future. We are the world.
We are the children.
Children. Thank you. That song's not going to be in this movie. We can't afford it. No. It's Disney. Disney doesn't have unlimited money.
They're so poor.
Yeah. Oh, won't someone think of poor old Disney? But yeah, okay. That, I think, is what we actually need to do. And that's our end of the movie. Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland can be today. Yes. There's your tagline.
Totally.
What are we missing? What else do we need for the storyline and plot of this movie? Is there anything?
I mean, I really love that reimagining.
If we're going to put this in Disney, the reskinning.
The reskinning, that is a graphic term.
Well, that's what they call when they redo rides. Like when they turned the Tower of Terror into Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right. I called that a tragedy, but that's just me.
But it's called reskinning, right?
I have no idea.
Well, theme park people, let me know.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a theme park person.
You're a Disney person, not a theme park person.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not a Disney adult, though. Like, I mean, I am, but I'm not, like, I don't live at Disneyland.
No, you go to Disneyland not for the rides. You go there to collect the pins, which is right and normal.
I did collect... There's a whole lot of pins sitting in my parents' house right now that I collected as a kid.
Yeah, great. That's awesome.
Just airing out all my dirty laundry.
That's why you're the right person to remake this movie.
Oh,
it's a movie about collecting all the pins.
It's true.
And the pins are people.
And they're pokey? Like, pins... All right, I'm going to jump out the window.
Casting. Ready to talk about some recasting?
Sure am.
There aren't a lot of people in this movie. There's like 6 characters.
Yeah, and there's a couple that I feel like Casey's dad is Tim McGraw. Like, that could just be any fun celebrity cameo.
Yeah, and I did not recast her dad because I was like, whatever. But like, yeah, celebrity cameo. It's fine.
Yeah.
But let's start with our main character, Frank Walker. Mm-hmm. Who did you have for Frank Walker?
So, I was trying to think about who is basically like around the same age and the same acting stature, but I think it would be interesting when originally thinking about like the bits that take place in 1964, it would be cool to have an actor of color, because that's just like a whole nother element to really, she's like having to work hard to find someone that like society is extra ignoring.
Yeah, absolutely.
This may or may not be the perfect casting, but I really like Coleman Domingo, and I was thinking about him a lot. I don't know that he's not George Clooney, obviously. It wouldn't be the exact same play, but I think it works age-wise, and it would be really interesting.
That's great. That was kind of my logic, but for Casey, I thought, like, this guy's the past, she's the future, kind of a little bit. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, like, I've got nothing against Coleman Domingo. I think that's great. My logic was going for, like, the kind of vibes of crotchety, cranky old man, but like when he's in the zone and vibing and like doing nerd shit, like you could just see his eyes light up. Mm-hmm. And so I went with Clark Gregg.
I do love that. I now that we have talked through like the new vision for it, I do think it might be more helpful to have the younger character be, like you're saying, the future, a person of color or a queer person, and have the older guy be that. And I love Clark Gregg, and I think that is a good move.
Okay. Well, let's see who we have for Casey first.
Yeah.
Because I actually cast someone who's like 16, 17 years old.
I was looking at younger too.
Yeah. Like 25 is fine. Like, again, full credit to Britt Robertson.
Yeah.
She does a great job. I have no notes for her. I think she does, like, I think all of the performances in this movie are excellent.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's literally just a script and directing that I didn't care for. But, like, so my actress, I mean, I've only ever seen her in one thing, or I guess technically a couple things, but because she's young, she hasn't done a lot yet. But she is the little girl from the Godzilla vs. Kong movies. Mm-hmm. The little girl who can sign.
I haven't seen.
Her name is Kaylee Hoddle.
Mm-hmm.
She is a little girl of color. She comes from, I think her family is deaf, so like she's doing sign language in the Godzilla vs. Kong movies because that's how she's communicating with King Kong.
That's really cool.
She's a very good actress. I actually didn't realize how young she still is, but she is still very much like a teenage girl. And so I was like, yeah, perfect, great.
Yeah, amazing.
Who did you have for Casey?
So I was also thinking younger, but I was still thinking like reversing those two roles. But I had originally thought Sadie Sink potentially because
Sure.
I feel like she's got the like you've seen her in Stranger Things play like the angsty teenager and stuff, but I think that works. But I also was thinking, and she plays teenage. I don't know how old she actually is, but
she is 23 as of 4 days ago as of recording.
Wow, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Sadie Sink.
The other person I was thinking is Yasmin Finney, who's in Heartstopper and was in the new Doctor Who. She's super cool. She's a trans woman of color. I think that would be really interesting, but I don't know.
To play Casey?
Yeah. But I don't know. She plays teen, but I don't know how old she actually is.
She is younger than Sadie Sink, but she is 21, which isn't the end of the world. I'm perfectly happy to go with Yasmin Finney.
Yeah?
Yeah, let's do Clark Gregg, Yasmin Finney.
That makes sense. That would be so fun. She's also been in Doctor Who, and he's like Marvel, Nerd City.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Great. So that brings us to Athena, which is the character I had the hardest time casting because 2 episodes ago I remade Jurassic Park, and I needed another little girl for that.
Yeah, there's only so many that have been in things that you will have seen.
That are still that age.
Yeah, oh, totally.
So, did you find a little girl for Athena?
The only one I found, and she kind of looks exactly the same as the original cast, is Mackenzie Foy, who was just in like a Disney Nutcracker type thing. She's pretty young, I believe, but it's basically the same look.
She's older than the other 2 actresses we just listed. She's 24.
Really? Oh my gosh. Okay, never mind then.
Yeah.
I think maybe the stuff that she did as a child just came out
It's possible.
Growth spurt and stuff. So disregard.
Yeah. The actress I have is 10. She was in Five Nights at Freddy's. She's in For All Mankind, and she's in Unstable. Her name is Piper Rubio.
Who was she in For All Mankind? I love that show.
In For All Mankind, she is Lily Dale.
Why am I not remembering who that is? I mean, if she's in that show, everyone in that show is amazing, so I'm totally on board.
And she's Abby in Five Nights at Freddy's, but that means nothing to me.
Yeah, it means nothing to me also.
But she's like genuinely 10 years old.
An
so like,
actual child actor who can act and is 10. On board.
Great. That brings us to Mayor Nix. I wanted someone who, big, boisterous, welcome to the world of tomorrow, like that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You know, not from Futurama, but like that kind of like vibe of like big, loud, and like very good or very bad, just depending on like the way everything goes around him.
Like the Wizard in The Wizard of Oz and in Wicked.
Very much so.
Totally.
Is that who you cast?
No, I went a different direction.
So I went with a big British actor because apparently the mayors or governors have to be British because governor.
Yes.
He is in What We Do in the Shadows, and he's in the IT Crowd. It's Matt Berry.
Interesting. I went a different direction entirely.
Yeah, great. That's fine.
I was thinking about it, and I was like, it could be interesting to be a woman, and I was thinking Emma Thompson, which is an entirely different play.
It's a very different vibe, but
yeah.
I'm not against that.
It's a very different vibe. I think possibly with what we were talking about changing with the plot, it might be better to have more of a character like you're describing.
Maybe. I don't know. Like, if we're going to be taking someone down, like Emma Thompson is very good at being like oh, good, yeah, whatever you need, I'm here to help. And also being the badass bitch who's gonna like, oh, you're gonna take something from me? Absolutely not.
Yeah, that's kind of what drew me to her, is that she can be very gentle. Like, she plays the range very well, and she can turn on a dime. So that's kind of what I was thinking about. The same, I mean, I guess Hugh Laurie's character in this, he doesn't necessarily play it with much of a turn. He's kind of a jerk the whole time.
Yeah,
but
he's a bad guy the whole movie.
Right, but like we were discussing, it would be nice to see someone being kind up front and then change.
We don't want them to be the bad guy, but they themselves were corrupted, especially like it's an absolute power corrupts absolutely. And also you're the person in power who has kind of facilitated this and now is given more and more and more power. Of course that's going to corrupt you, and you're going to think you deserve it.
Right, it's a statement on human nature. You want to see someone that you relate to as maybe the best of us become the worst of us simply because that's what happens in those situations.
That's what, like, money corrupts.
Exactly.
It's, like, a scientifically proven fact, and we kept giving this person, this lovely, wonderful person, more and more and more. It's too much. No one should have that much. Hey, look what happened to Emma Thompson.
Yeah.
Great. Emma Thompson. We're going to do that.
That's a great, just out of context, hey, look what happened to Emma Thompson.
Kind of. And really the only other two characters I have are Ursula and Hugo.
Yeah. I also think about those.
So I feel like we should do them. Well, let's talk about Ursula first. Who did you have for Ursula?
So I was just thinking in general about, like, comedic actors that would just have so much fun with this and just trying to have it be, like, a little bit different than just throwing, like, anyone in there. But I was thinking about Fortune Feimster.
I don't know who this is.
She's a comedian. She was on, like, Chelsea lately, but she's done a lot of, like, little parts in comedy movies where she kind of shows up and does, like, a bit.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I just think she's really funny. Also gay. Love that. And I just think, like, not what you would be expecting a robot to look like. And I think it would just be fun.
I agree. If we're doing like a Jesse and James Team Rocket thing where we're putting the mustache on her instead of him, I would potentially want someone a little more feminine, so that way it doesn't feel like we're making a mean joke at her expense. So which means that we would cut the joke, because I think that obviously she's very funny and very good. Yeah, Fortune Feimster might be the way to go.
It would be really funny to have, like, a tiny funny dude next to her, but I did not think that far.
We'll see who we have, because I have someone for that. My Ursula is an actress who I think is kind of on her way up, which is kind of why I think it would be fun to cast her. She is funny, but not necessarily a comedian. She was in Everything Everywhere All at Once. She's a Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It's Stephanie Sue.
Okay, yes. Agreed. I love her.
Yeah.
I'm on board.
But we'll figure it out, and we'll figure out the pair.
It also could be the two of them.
It very much could. We'll come back to that. So my Hugo, I went with an amazing host on American Bake Off. I mean, he's also in Severance or whatever. It's Zach Cherry.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's fun. That's fun.
And, like, I was like, Zach Cherry might have been my first casting for this whole thing. So I was like, yeah, Zach Cherry.
Just
awesome.
Like,
great.
Goofball. Done.
Yeah. Who did you have for Hugo?
I don't have someone because I don't think men are funny.
That's fair.
I am mostly saying that as a joke. I just wasn't really clicking with someone that would have worked with Fortune, who I just really thought was funny.
Well, then do you want to do Stephanie Sue as Ursula and Fortune Feimster as Hugo?
That would be really funny. I think the two of them would be, because I think they're so different, but they would play well together.
Plus, it's important that we're gender swapping these characters because, of course, the future is female.
Yeah, exactly.
And so all of our people from the future
are female.
Literally everyone in this movie is female except for Clark Gregg.
And I didn't even do that on purpose. Wow, look at that.
That's great. And then, of course, whoever Casey's dad is whoever is a fun and non-problematic country star at the time.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I was looking into who would do it, and I was like, how problematic are all these people? Or dead? Those are the options.
You know what? Not our job. We're not going to worry about casting Casey's dad. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's a stunt cast. Whatever.
Like, I also didn't cast Casey's younger brother because I don't care.
It's really got to be whatever child reads it the
and also,
best.
We don't need that character. That character brings nothing to the plot.
It's true.
That child is only there to allow Casey to do exposition. That's it.
Yeah. He also looks a whole lot like Child Frank.
It's so weird and confusing.
Yeah.
One of them is slightly tanner than the other, but for all intents and purposes, they are identical.
Same face shape, same vibe.
Yeah, they're the same kid. Don't have them both in the movie. What are you doing?
It's such a strange choice.
Anyway, that's our cast, and now we have writer and director. I have separate writer-director.
So do I.
Okay. Let's talk about writer. I went with a writer who has actually really only done animation stuff, sort of, with a caveat, but I don't like the caveat. He's done animated movies because, like, I feel like a lot of the animated movies where you have hope and joy at the end, a lot of the movies where you have hope and joy at the end are animated movies. Mm-hmm. And those are movies like The Wild Robot, Lilo and Stitch, and How to Train Your Dragon, mm-hmm. which is the caveat because they're just using that script again for the live action version,
right? Which
is insane. That's how you know it's going to fail. But How to Train Your Dragon, that makes it a live action movie, whatever. So anyway, the guy's name is Chris Sanders. Mm-hmm. He's a good writer. He's done a lot of animated things, and The Wild Robot is one of the few movies I've ever seen that is a post dystopian movie.
Interesting. I haven't seen it, but I know everyone is.
It's worth your time. It's great. I love that movie. I agree. I think the fact that Flow won Best Animated is awesome. I love that, but I also love Wild Robot. Mm-hmm. But like literally, we get some. It has nothing to do with the plot, but there's like travel and different things that we see, and we see like sunken cities in the water, and we're like, oh, the dystopia happened, and we're now on the other side of the dystopia, and just the concept of that was so like inspiring and hopeful. It's just like I love that, and so that's why I was like, oh, Chris Sanders would be great. Yeah,
I think I'm gonna end up siding with you a little bit because I really love the people that wrote and directed the movie. Like I was so upset that it wasn't good because I love everything else they do. So I kept thinking like, well, I think you would want it to be someone who's been in like the Disney universe. So I wrote down Andrew Stanton, who did like Finding Nemo, and all of those, just because I was like, just to stay in that genre, and you know, I guess I was thinking too practically and less dreaming. But
this movie's about dreaming.
I know. Well.
Yeah. But who do you have for your director?
Robert Zemeckis.
Oh, tell me why.
I don't entirely know. I think the problem for me was that I was really struggling with who I thought, because in my head, if I had not known that Brad Bird was the director, I really think I would have been thinking about him and like other Disney Pixar directors. And so I was like, okay, well, let me go with somebody else who's like somewhat similar vibe, but is not necessarily that. And that's just kind of how I landed there. But I really do think it would be better with you know, I should have put more thought into it.
That's okay. My director, I thought, well, especially because it's a predominantly lady-driven movie now, is like I wanted a female director.
Love it.
But I also wanted to find a female director who doesn't exclusively do like dark stuff.
Hard to find.
So yeah, so this particular director did Diary of a Teenage Girl. She did Can You Ever Forgive Me? She did Night Bitch. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, she directed A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. Because again, you want hope. You want like to believe in a better world. And like if you can do a movie about a guy whose name I'm completely blanking on right now, Sweater Guy, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's
Mr. Rogers.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers. I couldn't get there. If you're the sort of person who can direct a movie about Mr. Rogers and make it wonderful and lovely, I think you're the right sort of person who can make us believe in something again, mm-hmm. especially with the Disney budget behind you. Mm-hmm. And so this director's name is Marielle Heller. Mm-hmm. And so that's who I thought would be a fun directing person.
Interesting. It's an interesting choice. I have seen Can You Ever Forgive Me, which is quite possibly as far from this as anything can get.
That's why it was in the list, but not the end of the list.
Not the featured credit, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was probably thinking a little too much like a studio head, but I think the choice to bring someone in who doesn't necessarily do this all the time, but has that kind of vision is probably the better choice.
So, given the options, I would push us towards both Chris Sanders and Marielle Heller, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I think we get what you wanted in terms of like the Disney person connected to all of that because he wrote Lilo and Stitch and all of that, and then we get to have A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Yeah.
And like those two things combined with the Disney budget, hopefully we get a Tomorrowland that we can truly believe in.
Yes.
But let me take you through tomorrow's Tomorrowland.
Okay.
Because it's the one in the... Frank Walker is going to be Clark Gregg. Casey Newton will be Yasmin Finney. Athena will be Piper Rubio. Governor Nix will be Emma Thompson. Ursula will be Stephanie Sue. Hugo will be Fortune Feimster. All of this will be written by Chris Sanders and directed by Marielle Heller. That is Tomorrowland.
Yay.
Sam, you gonna go see this movie?
Absolutely.
Great. That's it. We did it. We have podcasted.
We did it.
Thank you so much for being my guest and remaking this movie with me. Now's the time for plugs. If there's anything you want people to do or watch or follow on social media, now's the time to tell people about it.
Oh, goodness. Well, if you'd like to watch the one episode of NCIS Los Angeles that I wrote over and over and over again so I could get 2 cents in residuals, that would be lovely. Season 14, episode 14. But in terms of plugging anything, if you want to watch me do some flips, you could follow me on Instagram at Blockinator17. Hopefully, we'll be landing those flips pretty soon.
By the time this episode comes out, in a month, I think you will be landing them.
I'm going to take that vote of confidence. I hope so. Yeah, I pretty much just do flips. I bake things. I make ice cream. If you're interested in any of that, the occasional nerdy thing, you can follow me there.
Do you want to spell it just in case?
BLOCKINATOR 17. Definitely did not imagine spelling that out into a microphone when I made that Instagram handle in high school, but here I am owning it.
There you go. Sam's a popular name, so unless you've got a really unique last name, it's hard to get your...
Is it a popular name? I hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
Are we both named Sam?
Yeah, it's weird. What are the odds? You are the third Sam who's been on the show? I think there's only been 2 other Sams, but I don't remember.
I'm genuinely surprised. In high school, I played on a softball team with 6 Sams.
So here's the crazy thing. The only other Sams I'm friends with are all, like, girl Sams. I don't know that I'm friends with any other boy Sams.
You might be the only boy Sam for me also. I'm sure someone's going to be insulted by that. No, I have there's multiple.
There
Sorry.
you go. All right. And I know other boy Sams, but I don't know that I hang out with other boy Sams. Like if I go through my phone and look up Sam, it's mostly going to be like girl Sams, which is interesting.
I think it was the most popular name of my birth year. So.
That's possible.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Original.
If you're interested in following another Sam, I am also on Instagram at Ideal Remake, or you can find me on BlueSky at Sam Gasch, SamGasch. Or if you want to talk about Tomorrowland, theme parks, or where your favorite hidden Mickey is, you can do that on the Dueling Genre Discord, which has a link in the show notes of this very episode. But yeah, that is Tomorrowland. So I will end this episode the same way I end every episode. Sam, what is your favorite quote from the movie Tomorrowland?
Even the tiniest of actions can change the future.
That's a good one.
It's a great one.
That you had perfectly available and didn't look up right now at all.
I absolutely came prepared. Very professional.
Sam, thank you very much for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me.
Episode.
Woo!